The moment she stepped off the train, she spoke the words that had ended every proposal she'd ever received. "I need to tell you something before you waste your time. I come with 4 sons." Most men would have tipped their hats, wished her luck, and walked away. But this rancher did something no one expected. He smiled. Then he quietly said, "Good, I've been praying for a big family." Those 7 words changed 5 lonely hearts forever. But the greatest test of their love was still waiting just beyond the horizon. Stay with this story until the very end, because what happened after that promise brought an entire frontier town to tears. If you love heartwarming Wild West stories about faith, family, and second chances, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join our growing family for more unforgettable stories. The shrill whistle of the steam locomotive echoed across the valley as passengers stepped onto the crowded wooden platform of Silver Ridge Station. Porters hurried with luggage, horses waited beside wagons, and merchants called out their morning bargains. Among the crowd stood a woman named Hannah Brooks, gripping the hands of her youngest sons while her oldest carried the family's only worn leather suitcase. Their clothes were clean but faded, their boots covered with the dust of a journey that had taken nearly a week. Hannah had not come searching for riches. She had come searching for one thing her boys had never truly known since their father's death: a place to call home. Years earlier, her husband had been killed in a mining accident, leaving her alone with 4 growing sons and no land, no savings, and no family willing to help. She survived by cooking, washing clothes, and taking whatever honest work she could find, but every passing year made life harder. Eventually, she answered an advertisement from a lonely rancher looking for a wife. She dared to hope that somewhere in the wide American frontier, one decent man might welcome not only her but the children she loved more than life itself. Unfortunately, every meeting before this one had ended the same way. Men smiled politely until they learned she had 4 boys. Some claimed they needed a quieter home. Others admitted they wanted children of their own, not someone else's. A few simply walked away without another word. Every rejection hurt Hannah less than the disappointment she saw in her son's eyes. 16-year-old Jacob had already learned not to expect kindness from strangers. 12-year-old Samuel rarely spoke unless spoken to. 9-year-old Eli still believed good people existed somewhere, while little Noah, only 6 years old, simply held his mother's hand, trusting that she would somehow make everything right. As the passengers disappeared into town, a tall rancher approached through the crowd. His name was Ethan Carter, a respected cattleman whose ranch stretched across hundreds of peaceful acres beyond the mountains. He had spent years building a successful life, yet every evening he returned to an empty house where silence filled every room. Since losing his parents and younger sister years before, Ethan had quietly prayed that God would someday bless him with the noisy, joyful family he had never stopped missing. Hannah noticed him walking toward them and immediately prepared herself for another painful conversation. Before Ethan could introduce himself, she lifted her chin with quiet dignity and spoke honestly. "Before we go any farther, you need to know something. I didn't come alone." She gently placed a hand on each boy standing beside her. "I come with 4 sons." The words hung in the air like every goodbye she had ever heard. Around them, curious travelers slowed their steps, expecting the familiar ending. Instead, Ethan looked carefully at each boy. He saw Jacob standing protectively beside his brothers. He noticed Samuel helping Noah adjust his small cap. He smiled when Eli nervously offered to carry another bag, even though his own hands were already full. Ethan didn't see burdens. He saw brothers already caring for one another. He saw the family he had always dreamed of hearing around his dinner table. A warm smile spread across his weathered face as he looked back at Hannah. "Good," he said softly. "I've been praying for a big family." Hannah stared at him in stunned silence. Her sons exchanged uncertain glances, unsure whether they had heard correctly. For the first time in years, no one had asked her to apologize for loving her children. No one had treated them like unwanted baggage. Standing there beneath the bright western sky, beside the steaming locomotive and surrounded by strangers, 5 weary hearts felt something they had almost forgotten existed. Hope. None of them realized that this unexpected meeting at a railroad station would soon become the beginning of the happiest chapter of all their lives. Ethan welcomed Hannah and her 4 sons to his ranch with kindness instead of questions. Before speaking about marriage, he showed the boys the horses, the barn, and the wide green fields where they could run without fear. Jacob eagerly helped repair fences. Samuel discovered a talent for caring for the animals. Eli followed Ethan everywhere, asking endless questions about ranch life, and little Noah laughed as he chased chickens across the yard. Hannah watched quietly from the porch, amazed that her sons were smiling again. The lonely ranch house that had once echoed with silence was suddenly alive with laughter, muddy boots, and joyful voices. Not everyone approved. Some neighbors warned Ethan that raising another man's children would bring nothing but hardship. Ethan never argued. He simply continued treating the boys as if they had always belonged there. Every evening they gathered around one table, sharing stories, prayers, and simple meals. One night, Hannah apologized for bringing so much responsibility into his life. Ethan gently took her hand and smiled. "You didn't bring me responsibilities," he said. "You brought me the answer to every prayer I've whispered for years." Tears filled Hannah's eyes as she realized her family had finally found the home they had been searching for, and soon the whole town would witness a wedding that would forever change how they saw love and family. A month later, the little white church overlooking the valley was filled with neighbors who had once doubted Ethan's decision. They watched in silence as Hannah walked down the aisle with tears of gratitude in her eyes. Jacob proudly stood beside Ethan as his best man. Samuel and Eli carried fresh wildflowers, and little Noah smiled as he scattered flower petals across the wooden floor. When the preacher asked Ethan if he accepted Hannah and her 4 sons as his family, he answered without hesitation, "With all my heart." Then he knelt before the boys and made a promise they would never forget. "From today forward, you'll never have to wonder if you're wanted. You're my sons now, and this ranch will always be your home." The years that followed became the story everyone in Silver Ridge loved to tell. The once silent ranch was filled with laughter, hard work, and family dinners around a crowded table. Ethan never saw the boys as someone else's children. He loved them as his own, teaching them honesty, courage, and kindness. Hannah finally found the peace she had prayed for, knowing her sons would grow up with a father who chose them every single day. The family that others had rejected became the happiest home in the valley, proving that true love never counts the cost. It simply opens its heart. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who still believes that the greatest families are built not by blood alone, but by unconditional love, faith, and the courage to choose one another.